All right, welcome to the first episode of the Anime Book Club. I'm your host, Pat, joined by the one and only Matt.
Over here.
Yeah, so this is our new project. A lot of people have done this, but a lot of people have made sandwiches too. We're going to watch all of JoJo, like all of it.
I am excited for it, mostly because of the enthusiasm you gave me back 12 years ago, 14 years ago.
So I was trying to figure out when I first discovered JoJo. So I saw, it's really weird because the first anime they ever made for JoJo was just of the final, the final chapters of the third volume of JoJo. An OVA came out in 1993 that made it to America in like 2005. So I think I saw those in an AMV and then hunted down the manga. And I've been trying to convince you to watch JoJo or engage with JoJo since 2006.
Oh, wow, that far back. So yeah, I remember not even for the anime, because you got me into the manga back then. And I think I had read I think I actually stopped reading right where the second episode of the anime ends.
Oh, cool.
That almost lined up perfectly with what I've got, and everything from after that's going to be new to me.
Well, fantastic. People aren't familiar. Our first book club session is going to be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We're going to cover The Phantom Blood, which is season 1 of the anime, and it's also series 1 of the manga, cover volumes 1 through 5. That's 44 chapters. This anime actually came out in 2012. I had not realized it had been out for so long.
Wow.
But yeah, if people aren't familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's a really long-running Japanese manga. Came out in 1987, and it is still going to this day, and I love it.
Enough time to get lots of memes going for it now.
Oh my god, the memes are so good. They're so great. Let's just jump into this. Let's get into here. So episode 1, Dio the Invader. So this episode opens up with a carriage crash in the year 1868. We get some big old gore at the start. The poor cab driver, the only person we see really wounded, because and I don't know if did this give you pause at all, but George Joestar looks fine just laying on the ground outside of that carriage.
We didn't even get a good look at anyone else, did we? Like, I think we saw the wife lying down to the side. We never saw the kid.
Oh, the wife and kid are in the carriage. You don't really get an idea. It's the driver is like impaled on a broken carriage spoke.
So he was, he could walk that off.
Yeah, get up there. Come on.
And it's a JoJo anime.
Yeah. Brush it off, man. And we're introduced to, I feel like, is probably the only accurate looking character for 1800s Britain, Dario Brando. Old man scumbag decides to pick the bodies clean of the Joestars and his rather nice wife.
Yeah, that kind of that stood out a lot. It's like she's all there, oh, those poor fools. Like she doesn't understand what her husband's all about yet.
He's like, no, we're gonna take stuff. I feel like before we get into any of the bizarre stuff, that is probably like if you had a slice of life, like the Dario Brando and wife show is the most like that would be like a offshoot of like Downton Abbey or something like that. That felt to me like they felt like the most grounded things of this show.
You're telling me that the stuff that happens in chapter 2 or episode 2 don't seem grounded to you?
Nah, not even. You know what? Yeah, in my mind, in my imagination, I've never been to foggy London.
I've never been to London. Like yeah.
So a big thing that happens here, and I feel like this is where the bizarreness kicks in. There's an awful lot of coach driver blood, and a little bit gets onto a mask that Dario finds in a suitcase, and it kind of like hops up, does a little jig,
moves back then first time.
Yeah. So this is our first introduction to the mask. The mask. What do you think of that mask?
I like it. I think I already know where this is going, though, like just because this anime is 20 years old.
Yeah, okay. But I like that because it's like this nice little thing there, because it just seems like they kick it off. Dario's trying to rob these people that this rich family that supposedly died in a carriage crash, and oh yeah, they just happen to be transporting this weird stone mask in a briefcase.
Of course, that never really got explained, at least not in the episodes I've watched so far.
Yeah,
they also just had it.
Yeah, and George doesn't even think of why. I guess he's a human being, so he's like, my wife, my child. But he doesn't go like, don't open the case. Like, you get a feeling that George doesn't know what that thing is either.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said earlier, he's on that ground. He looks completely fine. Just going, oh, good. I thought he was going to die. Like when I first watched that, it was just so surreal how nice he seemed compared to how he was acting. I was like, oh, so his dad dies here. Okay.
I paused it because I'm like, is there a scuff on this man? He's immaculate. He's immaculate.
It's
Like
his
a
grief. It's his grief struck him down at because he knew that his wife was dead. It was emotional. It was emotional damage.
It was pre lay. I have to have a lay down. My wife's dead. And this is, I feel like, the weirdest part of this. The first part of the series is, if you don't know where this is going, like, I feel like this is quite an emotional journey because they skip forward 12 years, and we're introduced to the baby in the carriage is now, I guess, 12 years old.
Yeah, remind me of this real fast because, like
Yeah.
I said, I got introduced to this from just starting to read the manga that you had.
Yeah.
Did they look younger in the manga? Because I remember them looking younger in this part of the story than they did in the anime.
Well, it's they did, but the funny thing about the JoJo series is the artist has gotten better since 1987.
Okay.
So they did look like little grown-up men. Even back then. But yeah, we have JoJo who's 12. He's happy. He's got a dog named Danny. But he's like a klutz. He's like a klutz.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of this, we're introduced to Dio, who is the son of Dario Brando, who's just like, his dad is dying in bed and Dio's just busy reading a book.
It feels like a KOTOR writer was part of this. Just well, the contrast between Dio and JoJo in these two episodes together. I don't know if it's too early to talk about both of them like this. It's just that on his own, JoJo. Do we call him JoJo yet, or just
We can
Jonathan?
call him JoJo. Yeah, we can call him JoJo.
Well, just JoJo at this point, he's weak, he's ineffectual because he doesn't have adversity in his life whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then it's just like this is a Sith hero story because someone isn't nice to him and is nothing but cruel, and thus he's able to find his own strength.
Yeah. But can I ask you a question? So Dio, we get that whole deal where he's reading the book, his dad dies, he's playing chess, and like this man smushes his face in his food. I actually, before anything else that happens, maybe it's the age, the world we live in, I'm actually kind of on Dio's side with this setup, where like this could have been a talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah, he's scrappy, he's young, he's a survivor.
Yeah,
those are admirable.
He's struggled, and I'm like, cool. This guy, this young blonde gentleman, he's gonna get somewhere in the world, and he's given the chance because Dario Brando, even though he was going to pick George clean, George came to and made the weirdest assumptions of like, oh, this guy must be helping me. Decided to like give him a life debt, like anytime you need a solid. So he has decided to give Dio to the Joestar family. Like he's going to let Dio be adopted.
But only after he dies.
No, only after he dies. He's like, yeah, you have to have this terrible like upbringing for the first 12 years of your life. Where you will be forever scarred by it. But then I will send you to the rich family. Yeah, wait a minute. Why didn't he send his kids sooner to be like, hey, go poison these people and we could take their house?
I don't think he knew his son was a poisoner just yet.
That's a good
Otherwise, the poison might not have worked so well on him.
That may not have succeeded. Oh, Dario. May not be forgotten. Then we have a scene that I just don't like and is weird. We're introduced to Raina Pendleton, this little blonde girl. There are these two bully boys that are trying to like undo her doll.
Yeah, everything that involves her, at least in these two, like what goes around her, has been weird.
Well, I mean, they didn't try to update this at all. This feels like something that was written in the late 1980s in Japan.
But like even JoJo during that moment, like when he shows up, it's like, I didn't do it for you.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing where JoJo's just an unlikable punk. He comes in and he's like, I can help this girl. And he just gets trounced. And then to make matters worse, after the boy has been trounced, he pulls out a branded handkerchief that has his name on it, like not a monogram. It says his full first name, last name. It should have the address on there.
He's begging them to kick his teeth in some more.
In my notes, it says a branded handkerchief. Get that guy. So I was maybe not on his side.
It is a little hard to believe that Arena started to fall for him after he was just a complete dick to her that moment.
Yeah. She's like, hey, thanks for the solid, man. And he's like, I didn't do it for you. I'm a gentleman.
Yeah.
These
I want to be a real man.
These aren't my tears. They're your tears. And then we get the worlds colliding. So Dario has passed away. Dio has made his way to the mansion, and he has proclaimed that his quest in life is to be the world's richest man. Again, I am on Team Dio so far. Let me be very clear and disclaimer of so far.
That is at least his current goal, anyways. Like, it didn't sound like it was his life dream.
Yeah, but at that point, his current goal is like, I'm going to go to this
Yeah.
rich family and
Well,
I will become rich.
That's been kind of my issue with Dio in both of these episodes, though, is I don't know what his goal is. Like, that doesn't, it didn't sound, that was incidental, it sounded like to him. It's like, I'll go on and be rich just to show you wrong, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm proving you wrong, Dad. I'm proving you wrong. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is my favorite thing in the world. He's standing over his dead dad's grave, which is, I guess, how people are in graves, and he calls him ugly.
He did, yeah.
He's like, "Ah, take this, my ugly father," patuh, and then spits on his grave.
Not a speck of those ugly genes in me.
Yeah, I take after my mother. I take after my mother. And then he does the sickest jump out of the
take
carriage.
after his mother, though. Oh, he does, yeah.
That sick jump, that's great. Where he just leaps out of the carriage and is like, hey.
Well, I've been enjoying the animation of this old styles where sometimes it just kind of have like cells moving almost, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not much motion from people, but they're moving.
Yeah. So this is where I earlier said I'm on Team Dio until about now. This is where it all falls apart.
It's got to be before the dog, right?
No, this is when it happens.
Okay.
No, I was on Team Dio. He jumps out of the carriage like a god. He looks awesome. He's got a great goal. He's gonna take down this rich landed gentry. Unfortunately, after he jumps out, JoJo walks over, I assume to compliment his sick jump, and the dog Danny shows up, and Dio knees the crap out of the dog, which is, if you want to make, that's a real heel move, to borrow a wrestling term. I don't like when people do bad stuff to dogs.
Is this where the trope came from for killing the dog to make you the unlikable character?
I think so. This is this is the 80s. He's probably the first person that sat there and went like, all right. Well, that's the thing too. He's like, he knees the dog and you're like, oh my God, that's such a bad thing. Nothing worse will happen after that.
Yeah.
Nothing. So then after that happens, George Joestar, the most gullible man in the world, like, it's like a big knee too. He's like, what happened? And Dio's like, the dog snuck up on me.
Oh my God. For a while, it almost seems like George is going to be the real villain of this story. He just gives straight into everything.
I'll let him do whatever he wants, says George Joestar. Other note I wrote is after they walk into the house, the stone mask is just on the wall. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
But it's like the only thing on the wall. Like, it's not surrounded by other masks or a suit of armor or framed.
You can't draw all of that in. That requires time.
It seems
so
so
think
weird.
of it.
He's like, oh, I guess we'll just hang this here. Like, they had an empty nail on that wall. I guess, maybe you just gotta successorize.
It's the first. He's still his wife died years ago. He's still learning to decorate.
And so at that point, we get the, I guess what I would call like the poor phase of JoJo's life. His dad is fully welcomed in Dio. He's like, you are my new son. I like the cut of your jib. Dio, you are basically a Joestar now. And they have kind of like a shame montage where, like, in any way that JoJo could suck in comparison to Dio in like schooling and even eating food, he's put to shame.
It's like, you spilled wine, no food for you.
I mean,
was it wine? Was he drinking wine?
He was drinking wine. He's a 12-year-old drinking wine.
Yeah.
That's why maybe it wasn't his first glass.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, if your boy is swinging arms, eating food like that, like, you've been a single parent, like, blame the butlers?
I guess he immediately blamed himself, though. He's like, I've been a lack parent. Look how awesome Dio's doing. Dio, you're the parent now.
Yeah, Dio raised my son. You did this pop quiz really well. It's just so fun. They lay it in. This first episode lays it in so thick. And I feel like, and it's a bummer of the whole first episode, where I feel like I don't like JoJo at all in this first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he sucks, I'm kind of like, well, he sucks. And you just like, I kind of like Dio, but he hit the dog. So it's like, ugh. We then get a weird flash forward. I can't tell if it's been like a little bit of time. The boxing scene.
Okay.
I feel like they looked bigger.
Did it look bigger just for that? Was it not another time jump?
I didn't think it was a time because they're very clear when time moves forward. They're like,
You're
oh, this is a
right.
month.
Yeah, so probably wasn't.
So maybe maybe it was a month or two, but yeah, they have this weird scene.
The boxing scene reminds me of another thing that was coming up. Is like as much as like the anime's trying to brand Dio as this inhuman person and that his father is apparently just gullible to a fault.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else living in London seems to be a good person either.
It's like no one's heard of lying before.
Yeah.
It's like so JoJo's right about to box, and I don't know who he was gonna box because I don't know what the scenario was going to be in a world where this turns out well for him. But then like they're like, we've got a surprise yet again to be like wrestling. They're like, we got a surprise entrance. It's Dio. Like the crowd parts. He's sitting in like a field of grass, and he's like, yeah, I'm in here. And he does what he calls booth boxing style that he learned in the bad part of town.
He's from the streets and he will not let you forget it.
Yeah, in the streets you go for the eyes.
Which I guess they don't do in that boxing ring, but no one had a problem with it.
Yeah, like JoJo's bleeding out of his eyes, and everyone's like, you conceivably they know who JoJo is, and maybe that's the problem because JoJo kind of sucks. But like Dio takes him down, and no one's concerned about JoJo. And on top of that, the Dio goes like, "Hey guys, I could teach you how to punch people in the eyeball, but don't tell JoJo. That guy's a snitch."
They just immediately latched onto it.
I think so. My headcanon, I know it's supposed to paint like, oh, Dio's this master manipulator. I just think that the JoJo
I'm sorry, that's just that one line, master manipulator, is perfect.
Oh my god, he nailed it. He nailed it. I just think that JoJo sucks so badly that people were just looking for the reason. Like, oh, you're right. Let's just call him a snitch. We got it. We got it.
Yeah, that rhymes. It's fun.
So then, yet again, and another long line of let's put this in the suck column. So JoJo's all like hanging out, just being bummed, and he runs into Arena again, who's hung onto his handkerchief, which I forgot that he had dropped, and he doesn't recognize her. Did you catch that?
No, actually, I forgot about that scene entirely until you mentioned it.
Yeah, she hands it to him, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're that girl."
But there wasn't a time jump. Like, you're right. This would have been like within the same year at least.
Yeah, this is not a lot of time's gone by. He doesn't really remember, and then he kind of does remember her. They have a little montage where Reina and JoJo become good friends. They go swimming. They do all this kind of stuff. It seems like things are going great. He like carves their names into a tree, which I think is the 1800s version of a proposal.
It was a fast montage too. I feel like that was less than a minute.
Yeah, it was real quick. It's real quick. They really try to burn through the pre-bizarre stuff in this episode.
This whole episode feels like a montage though. Like just the first 6 minutes was basically a cap before the title, wasn't it?
And I just feel like they're just trying, like they sat down and like, all right, this thing gets great. However, we just got to get through this early part, which I think takes up a lot of comic. The comic's hard to read because this beginning part just kind of stinks. So then after JoJo and Reina have kind of started to fall for each other, Dio shows up and will have none of this joy, and he kisses her to steal her first kiss. And he says the line like, "It was me. It was Dio."
He says it again, right? Like this isn't the line that
this is the
quotes.
First time he says it. Yeah, there are a couple of Dio things, but yeah, he proclaims that it was Dio who stole her first kiss. In what is an interesting clapback, she then drinks puddle water.
Mm-hmm. Even though there was a stream nearby, they made that clear.
That's such a great line.
Also,
she could have gone to a stream. Puddle water.
Reinforcing again that it isn't just Dio. It seems like everyone who lives in that place is an absolute asshole. Because as soon as he does that, like his little boys back there, I was like, oh my god, Dio's our hero.
Look at how awesome the sky is. Oh, puddle water. But yeah, unfortunately for our hero JoJo, Dio's plan does kind of work because she, after bumping into him, she doesn't want to see him.
That was the kind of disappointing thing about it. It's also, I remember when I read this, like, what, 12 years? What did we say it was? When I was first reading that, I was outraged that just him, like, forcing a kiss was enough to make her pissed at everyone.
Yeah, it's the 1800s, man. It's not a good time. However, we then hit what I like to call fight time. JoJo, I guess, puts 2 and 2 together, or I think he hears some gossip and he runs home and he's like, Dio, you're going down. And Dio does this really, I love how it's animated because it's kind of funny. He like jams his elbow into JoJo's face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they do like a little elbow wiggle where it's like, look at that, getting in there. got your nose. But for some reason, which is not really explained, JoJo has been hitting the gym and he just wrecks Dio.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere, is what it was. Because up until this point, he was always getting his ass kicked. I don't think there was any explanation for just all of a sudden he was strong enough to go toe to toe.
Yeah, he just takes him down. He just takes him down.
Was it just anger? Was this like a Dragon Ball Z thing?
Yeah, I don't know. He
Kaioken'd up there?
He had a sparking, to which after this happens, Dio has a pocket knife that he draws. He's like, I'll show you. But then Idiot of the Year, George Joestar comes out and goes like, boys will be boys.
Both of you go to your room. Like, it was worse than that because he was accusing, maybe I didn't see this, but he was accusing his son of like beating Dio when he was on the ground.
Oh yeah, because he hit Dio so yeah, he came in after like I think he hit Dio so hard he fell down, and when Dio got up, he was pulling out the knife, and that's when George came in and he's like, well, certainly my garbage son JoJo, you brute.
It's like best dad of the year award is going straight to George here.
George is the dumbest. It's almost charming. So then we have another, I guess, infamous scene. In response to getting hit, JoJo, I guess, somehow puts Danny the dog in a box, and then the box is lit on fire by a butler, and the dog burns. They fortunately in the anime do not. In the comic, I remember this.
I was about to ask you because I remembered that.
There's an infamous panel where like the dog jumps out of the box and it's very terrible, and
I remember that being more traumatic.
Anime cuts away and the butler's like, oh, my bad.
Well, because he saw a box and didn't think to check at all before he lit it.
Yeah.
It didn't even have to be a live thing in there. It could have been anything in there. He probably should have known.
Yeah, it's a bad butler. He's like, oh, there's a box in here. A sealed box, huh? Could have been anything. So, and that's basically where the episode ends. So at the end of our first episode, we have JoJo and Dio, and JoJo, who has basically had his dad turn on him, the street people that didn't like him anyway turn on him, and now his dog is dead, and Arena doesn't talk to him.
Yep, and Dio hasn't been in the house for several days for some reason. I guess he needed some space.
He had to go snooping. So that's the first episode. So what do you I actually, going back, didn't like the first episode a ton.
I have a lot of problem comparing it to what I have from what memories I have from when I read the manga long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an original impact I can't really get rid of anymore. It's weird because it's actually extremely quickly paced. Like, it doesn't take its time with anything, but it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It felt quite the opposite, like nothing happened, even though a ton of things happened. I guess it's because it was the sameness of it all. It was all basically, well, Dio joined the family, Dio's a dick, killed the dog, move next part.
Yeah. Dio tells someone that JoJo sucks, they take the statement at face value, wash, rinse, repeat.
Well, it's Dio's Iago-like villainy. Like, he's just being a because he can be.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that the creator wanted Dio to be like he wanted people to kind of root for Dio, which I feel like he kind of didn't succeed at all.
I mean, I wasn't really liking, like, I get the upcoming story. Like, I like rooting for an underdog, and that was kind of gripping me a bit. But for the most part, no. I don't think there was a single point where I was actually rooting for Dio.
Like, this never crosses into like
his introduction. Yeah, his introduction is him sitting next to his dying father, not giving it. Although his father is a piece of shit, so
yeah, it's this weird kind of thing where it's like there's all the alchemy, so to speak, of like a relatable, like, oh man, this poor guy's gonna come to the big city, but it's like he forgot to not be a serial killer.
Right.
And it's such a weird.
It's like, oh, slipped my mind.
Whoops! Oh, there I go, killing again.
I actually really like at least in theory, I really like the setup of JoJo starting off so weak comparatively to Dio. I like the fact that Dio can contrast that so well.
Yeah,
because it gives us this opportunity for the growth, like you said in that first, when it came down to fight time.
Yeah, fight time.
JoJo should have been handed his gut in that fight. But like the moment where he goes, "Oh crap," he didn't flinch at this.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not even skill. Like he didn't learn a new thing. He's just
Right.
like, I'm too dumb to remember that elbow should hurt my face and I'm going to hit you now.
And that was the thing, though. It was like I wanted to see growth, but it didn't feel like he earned it at this point. He
Yeah.
just suddenly had it. But it was set up to be something more meaningful that I would have, in theory, enjoyed.
Yeah. I wonder if when he was writing it, he got bored with this. I wonder if like originally there was going to be a lot more of them being younger. And then the writer just went like, I don't know. I'm just want to move forward.
That feels right. Because that was like it's the part is boring. Yeah. Especially compared to what he wanted to get to from what we see in episode 2.
Exactly. So
it feels like he really just wanted to get there.
Let's jump into it then. So episode 2 is called A Letter from the Past. We've now jumped 7 years into the future. It is 1888, baby. And we open on Jack the Ripper,
which was totally relevant to this episode.
And then we didn't get this in the first episode, but I am hard in on how awesome the intro to this show is.
Did they have an intro the first episode? Because I felt like I saw it for the first time when I watched the second one.
Yeah, no, they didn't have it.
Okay,
so this
good.
The awesome. The song is awesome. I like the CG animation.
I finally started getting, it was great. Actually, the CG animation puts me off. If I'm going to be honest, CG puts me off a little bit in the opening. I love that, like the animation itself just seems kind of weird, but I love the what's the word for it? Like the framing, the choice of shots is beautiful. And what they get, the transitions between them draws you right in. It's really well done.
It's so good, and it just makes me so excited.
And I finally get the meme of that end credit music starting.
Oh yeah, the dum, dum, dum,
to be continued at the bottom.
I guess we should have, because that first happened in the first episode, but yeah,
it didn't though. Like the music didn't start until the credits actually started.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It only started this one.
I feel like it moves up as the show goes on. Like they lean into it. We'll have to keep track of that. So let's jump into the episode. It is 8 years later. Jack the Ripper. Meanwhile, our boys are playing rugby. And JoJo has become a 195 centimeter giant.
That has been the best, like, long bottoming I've ever seen of a character. Is just they didn't just get bulkier and bigger, they became inhuman.
Yeah, so that's around like 6'4". So JoJo's a big boy. I remember in the comic it was referred to as like he's got legs like tree trunks, and like everyone's jumping on him like he's dragging like 6 people.
Which I think was a lot more impressive than Dio's contribution in that game.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So he gets the entire, maybe I have this wrong, but in my mind, the entire enemy team is piled on top of JoJo, and he's still moving, but he's like, you know what? I could slow walk my way to the goal, but instead he tosses it to Dio, who does a sick midair pose and makes the score.
I felt like JoJo should have been the one carried to victory at the end of that one. He did the legwork.
He could have done it. Literally, he was doing the legwork. And this was the first time in my notes I wrote, I would have watched more of this.
Yeah, I would have watched the JoJo rugby anime. Like, I'd have been down for that.
Which one of them was the one that signed up for rugby that got the other involved?
That whole, maintaining the secret rivalry the whole time. I would have been down for that.
I love that too, because we've learned
10 episodes.
In the meantime, I guess because Dio has realized that JoJo is a freak, he can't directly fight him. Like, they didn't get to college and he's like, hey guys, that JoJo kid's a snitch. Like, he stopped doing that.
Oh, quick aside, did it bug you that the opposing rugby team seemed to be in school uniforms and not rugby uniforms?
Oh, I totally missed that, but I would totally believe it. Well, what if they're too poor? Like, maybe JoJo and Dio are the only people who can afford uniforms.
Maybe, but they're in, like, the other team's in a preppy school uniform.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Either way, that's ridiculous. And then we move on to the revelation of, as much as I would watch the sports anime of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the idea that Dio is about to become a lawyer and JoJo's about to be an archaeologist, I would watch that show as well.
Yeah, no, I had that exact same thought when I was watching it. I like their diversion of paths there. It's like lawyer for Dio.
I want them to be like, get a flat in London, and like they hang out at night, and he's like, oh man, how was your court case? How was your dug up some dinosaur bones, or whatever JoJo was gonna do?
I would love it if he just kept rebooting JoJo to do all these side stories that couldn't be.
It's like pilot season. I'm digging all this kind of stuff. And yeah, they're good friends. They're the best of friends. But oddly enough, after 7 years of being friends, Dio like moderately says one thing to JoJo, and JoJo immediately like, oh wait, this guy sucks.
It was an exposition recap.
Yeah,
It's
like
like
you heard the narrator.
Yeah, it wasn't even the narrator. It was their own heads.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
just,
yeah, they're recounting.
yeah, they just recap it. Like it's it's like the basic stereotype of doing a quick exposition dump was like people walk into a scene of doing something that they do every day of their life and just have to turn to the audience and say, well, why am I doing it like this?
Yeah. And they both, yeah, you're right. They both go over their internal monologues, and at the end remember they both hate each other, which I think is great.
I loved that like friendly clap they did.
Yeah.
You know, the handshake thing that you do.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. After they remember that they hate each other, the revelation has come out. The George Joestar, the smartest man on earth, is sick. And we get some classic George will listen to Dio regardless of anything. He's like hawking up a lung, and he's like, I should go to the hospital. And Dio goes, you can't go to hospitals. They just take money.
Well, you're right. I am feeling better in my own bed.
I guess you're right. Cough, cough, cough.
Actually,
cough.
art style wise, this was the first scene that really struck out to me how monstrous in size these two characters are.
Oh yeah.
When they're standing by his bedside and they're like their nice tight suits, when they've got like 7-inch shoulder length.
These giant treants standing next to this sick old man
with their like drastically different, overly detailed faces.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Like that, I think that was where it really started to stand out what this anime is going to look like.
Yeah, and I love that you can already start to see it. So after we have George being an idiot, it's revealed that JoJo, what he's been using this archaeology degree for, has been studying the stone mask that apparently was his mother's.
Does that ever? I guess maybe I shouldn't ask for spoilers. I think you know.
Yeah,
but it's left me if that ever. I know up until now, there's no way that was ended.
So yeah, it's an insane revelation where it's like, oh yeah, it was in the carriage because it was his mom's. Like, where they just picked it up? Because George doesn't know anything about this mask.
That would explain why his dad didn't care about putting it on a random wall.
Yeah, it seems so strange. It's like, this is how I remember my lady.
He never once participated in his wife's hobby, I guess.
This is my favorite thing in the world. JoJo literally has the internal monologue thing of, I just had a terrifying thought.
Yes. Nothing triggered that, right?
No, he's just sitting there being like, just studying my ass. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Dio's poisoning my dad.
Was this before he found the note?
No, like this is the thought that makes him knock over a bookcase where he finds Dio's dad's note.
Why was that note there?
He upsets. Why? Yeah. Why isn't it in Dio's room? Dio, like, he wanted to be caught, I guess.
He's self-conscious. His relationship with JoJo seems like the more complicated versions between Batman and Joker that people talk about. It seems like he needs JoJo more than he admits.
I need you to realize this, you dumb. Or maybe he's like, oh my god, no one's catching on to this. Like, maybe he's feeling a little bad where it's like, I can't believe this hospital line worked on George.
He's going crazy. He doesn't understand. Is everyone this dumb?
So easy. So, as you had said, we get some quick flashes of a deleted scene that was in the manga where Dio goes to the mean streets of London to buy some poison. And then he finds Dario's note, Dio's dad. He's like, I need you to take care of my son. By the way, here are the symptoms of what I'm dying from.
With exactly the same one. And JoJo proves that he has more than 2 brain cells in there.
He's like, wait a minute. This carefully written note. I love the idea. He's like, it's not like I'm dying. It's like, I'm dying. By the way, my hands are swelling. I have shortness of breath, some chest pains. Like that idiot alcoholic thought to write down his symptoms.
Right. I was about to be angry at JoJo for his first instinct being to confront Dio with that rather than taking it straight to his father. But then I remembered what his father's been like for the past 7 years.
Yeah, I think JoJo had the right instinct because, as I wrote in my notes, fight time.
All right, they did one, yeah.
Yeah, fight time. He runs off to Dio, who is tricked, who's tricked a butler, like the most garbage butler in the world. He's like, don't take my father his medicine. The stairs, they're too tall. And he's like, I guess I am an old butler. Here you go, young Master Dio.
That poor butler is bawling his eyes out like towards the end of this episode because he got called out on this poison thing.
What an
It's like, you
idiot.
don't trust my medicine.
I can't be trusted. So yeah, Dio's walking up, and like because he's like no one can stop me, he just openly switches the envelopes. Like he
Hmm.
throws the medicine behind his shoulder and puts the poison in. So Jojo sees him, he's like, hey, what's in this pamphlet?
JoJo Ace Detective, master manipulator on his own right now.
Actually, I'll give him credit like that. He's like, swear on your dad. And he in his head, he's like, Dio's so proud and stupid. He's too proud. This has totally got him. I pressed this proud button. And for whatever reason, it works.
But that's not evidence. Like, he doesn't want to swear on his dead dad's honor because his dead dad doesn't have honor.
Yeah.
Dio was right in that circumstance.
Well, yeah. So he got him bummed at any of these kind of things. And then JoJo basically beats him up like Rodimus Prime and Galvatron at the end of Transformers. He like picks him up and throws him.
Cool reference, bro.
Yeah, it's what I thought of.
Well, this was like the first moment where JoJo really got the flex that he wasn't the weak kid anymore. Was
Yeah.
when he took that Dio punch to the face,
Yeah.
and it did that most classic of anime things where he just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like half his face concaved in, and he's like, meh.
Meh, I've got you, JoJo smash. And he smashes him so good that George, I guess, learns to trust him.
Well, there we go. George, he respects strength. This is written by Sith lovers
Yeah, it's just
all around.
It's so weird because it's like, every other time you've kicked the crap out of Dio, I've been taking Dio's side. But you know what? If you're strong enough to throw him down a flight of stairs, you must be in the right, my boy.
And then Dio starts to lose his mind because JoJo leaves the manor.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is the craziest thing in the world. So yeah, he goes like, well, I'm going to go to the bad part of town to find out what poison you've been poisoned with. And he, first off, number one, gets a dope new outfit.
Was his outfit crazier in Technicolor in the manga, or am I
Yeah,
misremembering?
there's a Technicolor. One of the volume covers is that outfit, but it's like purple and got all these
Yeah,
colors.
okay.
It looks incredible. However,
That is what I think of when I remember JoJo the anime period, is that.
yeah. Well, so he looks like if Sherlock Holmes had Bane's venom.
Mm-hmm.
Like
It's fair.
Giant muscle man in a Sherlock Holmes thing. But he leaves Dio alone in the house. Like they didn't even narc. He didn't call the cops. He's just like, hey, butlers, I know everyone believes Dio, but don't trust him.
Right. Well, I mean, it is stupid in a real world perspective, but there seemed to be this, because JoJo was right. I mean, Dio didn't make a move on his father during that time. So there was like this unspoken honor code, I guess,
Yeah,
that
I
they
guess so.
had.
He's still kind of a gentleman. We'll
Like,
sort this out
it
when I
can't
get back.
actively open in front of all the, or openly
Or
act.
I guess he said he needed to have the exact poison before he'd go to the cops. Because maybe his assumption is like Dio will just set the mind trick the cops.
Well, he wanted an antidote too.
Yeah.
So that's what his big thing was.
Yeah. So while he's gone, Dio has decided, like Dio, full reign of the house. They've not locked him up. Breaks into JoJo's study and reads his notes on the stone mask and realize that it like has these crazy like spider talons that come out of it, and is like, oh, I can kill JoJo with this mask, and everyone will know that JoJo's so stupid that he probably killed himself with it.
That did seem like a bit of a stretch, like a bit of a reach there. Like, how did it do the claw thing? Did he already know it was going to do the claw thing from that first time when they had that fight and they got a little blood on it? Okay.
I guess I skipped over that. So when he punched during the first fight time, he hit Dio so hard that some like blood splashed on the mask, and it did the leg thing, and JoJo noticed, but Dio didn't. So he's been studying it. That's one of the reasons he's been studying.
Okay, this second episode was dense. A lot happened.
There's I have 3 pages of notes, so I will get back to this. So CrossFit Sherlock Holmes has taken to Ogre Street to find a cure. So much great stuff happens. Another great line.
This is when it became an anime. Yeah.
This is when it really became an anime. I love a cat. That cat's eating a puppy. Like, I don't like the idea, but it's such an insane line.
Yeah, I remember getting that was what set the tone, I think, for the rest of that episode too.
And you don't even have a second to really reflect on a cat's eating a puppy before like 3 wild dudes just start hustling at JoJo.
Well, it seems like the London in this era, or at least in this anime, is almost like a JRPG.
Oh yeah.
It's just every random encounter, every 2 steps you take is just filled with, because even after he wins this fight, spoilers,
There's another
like the entire street just comes out to take up arms against him. Like,
Well,
everyone.
It is Ogre Street. You got to be ready to be on Ogre
It
Street.
is appropriately named.
But yeah, the fight, I actually like this fight quite a bit. One of the dudes tries to grab JoJo, and JoJo's response is just to grab his knife, like by the blade.
It's like, I'll lose fingers. I'm a protagonist. I don't have to worry about it.
It's so great. The guy's like, if you try to do anything, it'll cut your fingers off. And JoJo's response is just to punch him in the dick or kick him in the dick. He's just
he threatened to kick him in the dick. And then he gets jumped by the second guy, and there's it's just a jump cut between it. So I have no idea why JoJo didn't lose fingers other than the other guy.
Yeah.
Was also surprised by his friend attacking JoJo at the same time.
Yeah, he's like, no, we take turns. We take turns. Like, that guy saved JoJo by allowing him to just do his thing. So then we're introduced to a character that I love, Speedwagon, who's got a saw blade odd job hat.
Oh, did he get a name in this episode?
Yeah, he said his name was Speedwagon.
Oh, I missed that. And how did I miss that?
He said that after the fight, but I wrote down in my notes, and I know his name is Speedwagon. So yeah,
okay.
he reveals that he's got a hat where, like, it's not just an odd job hat, but like that the brim like falls off and reveals saw blades.
Yeah, it's multiple saw blades all turned around it.
Like a submarine propeller. And he throws it at JoJo. And JoJo just takes it. He like lets it hit him in the arm.
Never, like you said, I heard that go to the bone. That sounds like something that JoJo, whether he's ignoring the pain or not, needs to treat a little more urgently than he does.
Yeah, JoJo's just like, well, guess what? You've now lost your saw blade hat. And then he just kicks him.
Free saw blade hat from me.
Yeah.
Boot to the face.
Got me a saw blade hat. He's like, haha, joke's on you.
All
You're
right.
unarmed.
Now, I'm assuming that there's a lot of the background information to this series that you know about just because of how long you've been obsessed with it.
Yes.
So let's address this right now. Dio.
Yeah.
Oreo Speedwagon.
Yeah. These are 100% band names. Yes.
Is there an explanation? Like this? Is there a reason the author keeps picking these names over and over?
My theory is that he just couldn't name characters because guess what, man? Buckle up. This is not even the worst of it. And I hope you're ready. But yeah, Speedwagon, Oreo Speedwagon, which in the comic before that, because in the translations we're gonna see, they're trying to avoid some of that issue by changing some names a little bit. He introduces himself as REO Speedwagon.
Clever girl.
He's quite a gentleman, And in fact, he is so impressed by how hard JoJo kicked him, but not too hard, that when a mob shows up, Speedwagon, like they're all gonna fight. This mob of Ogre Street comes to cover JoJo, and like Speedwagon gets is like, hey guys, look at that man's leg. He kicked me with that leg. I should be dead.
That was
not
the most perfect kick I've ever had.
That man is a gentleman and a scholar, and he's my new best friend.
Well, he did call him a gentleman. Like I think we've almost forgot that there's this big deal about JoJo considering himself a gentleman.
Oh yeah,
it's like this is his own Bushido, and that's how we're supposed to be respecting him right now.
Oh god, I love that so much. That's the most anime stuff ever. It's like that guy beat me, and now you're my best friend, and none of you can touch him. God, I love that. I love that so much. We then jump to maybe one of my favorite outfits in all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dio's out on the town.
Yes. See, here's the best moment when Dio just goes, because how long had he been in part of the household at that point? More than 7 years?
Yeah, like 8 years. He's been living there for 8
years. He's been doing this gentleman thing. JoJo leaves him alone for like 3 days. Maybe an hour, and he turns into this alcoholic, like
he's wandering the streets, just drinking like a glass bottle of hooch. And he's like,
no, did you notice the name of that hooch?
What did it say?
It was Kronenberg's Irish whiskey.
That's amazing.
He couldn't even look up a whiskey name, or I guess he couldn't use one, but it's Kronenberg.
Oh, that's
and I was in tears at that moment.
It's one of the best images of the world because like he's been so composed and he's wearing a top hat and he's got this amazing cape and he's just drinking. He's like, I'm just as bad as my father.
Was he being self-pitying at the time? Because I don't
No.
think he realized that he was being as bad as his father.
No, he said, I even wrote down the line. He's like, I'm turning into an alcoholic like my garbage father.
Like JoJo leaves for an hour and he starts drinking and forgets not to kill people.
He's like, oh my God, which is great because he left the house. Like the mental image of this is he left the house with the stone mask to go do his experiment because he's like, I got to go test this thing to make sure I can kill JoJo with it. But like on the way out, did he see that bottle of whiskey and goes like, well, might as well for the road.
I don't know how Cronenberg whiskey hasn't become one of the memes from this anime.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. To quickly get into the things that happen here. So he drunkenly bumps into people. They're like, hey, you jerk.
In
So
JRPG fashion, it starts a random encounter.
Yeah. His response is to break a bottle on one of their faces, and then the other guy, he slams the mask on him and then like kills the first guy and gets blood on the thing. So then the mask activates and there's a glowing light. And he's like, oh, cool. I guess it kills people, but makes them glow first. And he turns around and starts thinking about how smart he is and great he is. And the man in the mask gets up and like hustles at him. And it is revealed after the mask falls off that the guy has got like sharp, pointy teeth now and gray skin. And
He's a vampire. Like, you can't beat around that bush. He just turns into a vampire.
It's a vampire making mask. And there's this like great gruesome thing where like he tries to hit Dio and Dio pulls his knife out and like cuts into the guy's hand so you can tell he doesn't feel pain. And he taps Dio, which knocks Dio like all the way across the street, and he punches a wall. The wall like explodes.
Well, the most memorable part is when he slips his fingers into Dio's, like under Dio's skin at his neck.
Isn't that the coolest?
That stands out.
I was like, I have 4 underlines under that. It's like the way they drink blood in this show is so cool.
Didn't didn't the vampire in the Marvel comics, forget his name, but didn't he have suckers on his hands?
Yeah, Mobius had suckers like an idiot, like a sucker.
That's the poor way to do it.
It's so great because like the hands just glide into skin, just like water or like you know, a knife into butter. And he's just drinking Dio, and Dio is like, oh, I'm screwed. Like he immediately knows he's boned. And the guy starts healing and he's like, he's fine. And he just starts giggling. And Dio, I guess not knowing what vampire, goes like, oh my goodness, the sun's coming up. This will be my last sunrise ever. And the vampire man turns to dust, and the music starts to play a little bit.
Yeah, it just starts to play then, and then it goes back to the manor.
Yeah, like Dio comes home after his terrible night, and JoJo's just waiting for him, holding a candelabra.
In the dark. Nothing else was lit. He walked into a dark room where JoJo was supposedly sitting there the whole time in the dark waiting for him.
Starts lighting individual candles on it. It's like, well, Dio, I see you're home.
Look who has the upper hand now, Mr. Ruin My Life.
Yeah.
Mr. Burn My Dog.
So yeah, so Dio made it back from JoJo made it back from Ogre Street. Dio has got the mask. He understands to a degree that it makes people into monsters / vampires. And I was so hyped at the end of this episode. I'm very excited to watch the next one. How do you feel about the first 2 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
The ramp up between episode 1 and 2 is absurd. Like the first, like again, like I said, episode 1 has this weird weird part where it's like it felt like it was slow, but it was actually really quickly paced and put a lot into it real fast. Just it felt boring. And then the second episode comes around, and all of a sudden, razor saw hats, fighting for your family. You're a true gentleman. Vampire masks.
Yeah.
Poison conspiracies unmasked.
Oh yeah, there's poison conspiracies. You can't trust hospitals.
You can't trust hospitals. You can take that one to the grave.
Yeah.
Literally.
What? Come on, George. You can't trust hospitals.
And I guess it's, it's not even the 19th century yet. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, what were they going to? They're going to bleed him. They're going to try and bleed the poison out. Maybe he's not wrong.
You might have a point there.
So
put some holes in his head.
So do you have anything you're looking forward, like, I know where this is going, and I don't know how well you remember this, but like, do you have any kind of guesses? Like, what are you looking
Oh,
forward to
well, this is,
next
I think,
week?
literally where I stopped reading the manga over 10 years ago at least.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I have everything past this point is just clips of shows that either the internet has leaked to me or you have shown to me. So I know where some things are going to go, but I have no idea what's happening in the meantime.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited. So we know at least in the next episode we're gonna get another fight time.
I feel like this just became a fighting anime,
Oh, I'm so excited. But yeah, I'm ready. I
unless it
can't.
becomes a food anime.
Actually,
Huh?
if we keep watching this, keep this in mind. Keep the idea that this could become a food anime in mind.
I'm down for it. I hope it's competitive.
But yeah, I love it. I love the style of this. I'm just so excited. I'm actually really. I have to say, when I texted you and said I want to start the anime book club, I was kind of regretting the decision all throughout episode 1, and by the end of episode 2, I'm like, nope, this is great. I want to watch JoJo for the rest of my life.
No, episode 2 is great. It's hard to describe the animation and how it's amazing for this though, because it's unique. It is definitely its own thing. You know a JoJo anime when you would know it when you see it.
I guess something that I didn't have in my notes enough is I love the fact that, to kind of give it that manga feel, like they'll just have Japanese characters appear
Like
on
the
the
sound
screen.
effects.
Yeah, the sound effects will
Yeah.
just be drawn and just hovering in the air, and it's so cool.
I have no idea what it means, but I'm sure
Oh yeah.
it's good.
Spooky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dig it. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see where this is going.
No, I'm watching this on Crunchyroll, so I only have, as far as I'm aware, the is there a dub or is this all sub?
There is a dub. I'm on VRV, which also I think is technically Crunchyroll, but there is a dub cast, and Johnny Young Bosch, everyone's favorite, is the voice of
really?
Jonathan.
Oh, I kind of want to hear that.
I don't
So,
know where you can find it.
Were you watching this subbed or are you watching this
I was
dubbed?
watching this subbed.
Okay.
All of my experience with this series has been
Not gonna break that yet.
yeah, I mean, I might get lazy.
Well, that's all I can. So that's all I can attest to. I don't know how the voice actors are in the English or not.
I mean, it's the people you know. Like an eventual character is going to be voiced by Wendy Lee,
Okay.
and at a certain point, I've heard these characters so many times that it would maybe pull me out of it. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I'm excited. So JoJo, the anime book club, #1 in the books.
I'm excited too. I love this. They have a wonderful enmity built between these two characters. So I can't wait to see how more fights happen between them now that they're all grown up.
I can't wait for more fight time. That is how I'm going to write. Anytime I do a summary, I'm just going to write fight time whenever we get to fight time.
Does it have to be a literal fight or can they be like doing chess with each other?
Yet again, stay tuned for.
All right.
Here's the best thing about JoJo, without giving away how crazy it is, and maybe for people who have bumped into this anime or this podcast who've not heard of JoJo, is the reason that JoJo's still been running since the 80s is that it actually just reboots itself. The only rule is that the main character is always named JoJo, and that after a storyline is complete, it does a time jump or a location jump, and you're just following a different JoJo, and it just reinvents itself constantly, and it's been doing that forever.
I mean, as long as he keeps enjoying it, it seems like a good formula.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I actually haven't. So, fun fact: I actually haven't really watched much of the anime.
Oh, really?
So I'm very excited to see. Yeah, I read the manga, so I'm really excited to see how they bring some of the stuff to life.
Cool.
And specifically, like, I'm a big fan of JoJo's season 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I really want to see 2. I've watched season 4 of the anime.
Right.
I've not watched season 3, and I saw the first 2 episodes of season 5. So I really cannot wait to get to this.
That was the crazy when I pulled up Crunchyroll's page to watch this because you were finally getting me into it.
Yeah.
I guess are all the seasons so drastically different that they just get their own names?
Yes. So that's
Okay.
why this is the Phantom Blood. The first season of JoJo is called The Phantom Blood.
Ominous.
And then it's just, I know the 4th one is called Diamonds Are Unbreakable. I can't quite remember what the rest of them are called.
One I think was just called Fight in the Desert.
Oh yeah, the 3rd one is Stardust Crusaders.
Okay.
And then I think Battle Tension might be the name of the second one. I feel like a fraud not remembering that. Diamond Unbreakable is the fourth one. Golden Wind is the fifth one. But yeah, it's great, and I really just cannot wait for us to get to the future stuff. But yeah, so that's the first episode of the podcast. We're gonna just keep doing this
I'm excited.
continually.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me on this bizarre adventure.